I was saved by God to make America great again.
Donald Trump was sworn in as the 47th U.S. president. That's where we're starting the 7 from the Washington Post. I'm Christina Quinn, in for Hannah Jewell. It's Tuesday, January 21st. Let's get you caught up with today's 7 stories. Number 1. Donald Trump kicked off his second term in the White House with a campaign-style speech. Yesterday's inauguration ceremony was unusual in many ways. For the first time since 1985, it took place indoors because of the brutal cold in Washington, D.C. And Trump's inaugural address was also not from the standard playbook. Many incoming presidents have used this speech to call for unity and set an optimistic tone. Trump instead painted a portrait of a nation badly in need of rescue.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.
Elsewhere in the speech, Trump railed against what he called an invasion of criminal migrants across the border. He attacked the Justice Department for alleged weaponization against him, and he said the federal government was too inept to properly handle natural disasters. As he prepared to re-enter the White House, Trump also continued to stray from the facts. In our newsletter today, you can find a link to a fact check. We also have a visual guide to notable guests at the ceremony, as well as a list of the most memorable looks. As usual, just follow the link in our show notes. We're sticking with the transfer of power for number 2. Trump pardoned almost all of the nearly 1,600 January 6th riot defendants. This was one of the earliest acts of Trump's second term. He issued a, quote, complete and unconditional pardon to all but 14 people convicted for offenses related to the 2021 attack at the Capitol. He also cut short the sentences for the other 14, including some of the most notorious rioters. It means everyone prosecuted by the Justice Department will soon be released, if they were still in custody. This was part of a flurry of executive actions issued by Trump yesterday. In 3 other major moves, Trump signed an order to end birthright citizenship, strip protections from federal workers, and halt the TikTok ban. These won't necessarily take effect. Many of Trump's orders are expected to be challenged in court, but they show that Trump is determined to move fast in undoing a lot of the Biden administration's policies. Number 3. President Joe Biden preemptively pardoned his siblings and their spouses. This was one of Biden's final acts as president yesterday. He said while his family members have done nothing wrong, he wanted to prevent them from being targeted by the Trump administration. It followed other preemptive pardons for high-profile figures like Anthony Fauci, who spearheaded the country's pandemic response, and for retired General Mark Milley, a former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff who has been highly critical of Trump. The preemptive pardons broke new ground in the depth and breadth of the presidential pardon power. And Biden also opened an avenue for future presidents, including his immediate successor, to do the same. The Israel-Hamas ceasefire in Gaza is holding for a second day. That's number 4. In Gaza yesterday, crowds of Palestinians began long journeys back to bombed-out neighborhoods. And aid groups are rushing to carry out deliveries to the devastated region after 15 months of war. In Israel, relatives of the hostages still held in Gaza have urged Trump to ensure that their loved ones are freed. 57 hostages are believed to remain captive after 3 women were released this week. The ceasefire deal that took effect Sunday is expected to lead to the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners from Israel and 33 hostages held in Gaza by Hamas. The timings remain unclear. At number 5, a high-impact winter storm will hit parts of the South today. Heavy snow is forecast from Texas to the Carolinas through tomorrow, and the severity of snowfall could be historic. The worst of the weather will probably track near the Interstate 10 corridor between Texas and northern Florida, with Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia also expecting snow. In Houston, George Bush Intercontinental Airport has suspended flight operations. New Orleans could get its biggest snowfall on record. And in Florida, a winter storm watch was issued for the first time in 11 years. Freezing temperatures may last more than 24 hours along the Gulf Coast, meaning dangerous conditions will linger even after the storm ends. The health impacts of weight loss drugs were investigated in a new study. That's number 6. The use of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy has exploded in recent years. But until now, there hasn't been a comprehensive investigation into the effects of the drugs on the human body. A major new study supported some of what scientists already knew. The drugs were linked to a lower risk of liver, cardiovascular, and kidney issues, and also to some known side effects like headaches and reflux. But there were some surprises too. The research also suggests that the drugs could help patients with substance abuse issues and reduce suicidal thoughts. They also could help with blood clotting and infection. However, this work is in its early stages. More research will be needed to confirm the impacts, good and bad, of these drugs. And at number 7, Ohio State beat Notre Dame in the college football playoff championship game. The Buckeyes appeared to be cruising to the title in Atlanta last night, taking a 31-7 lead midway through the third quarter. But then it turned into a nail-biter. The Fighting Irish rallied with 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions to make it an 8-point game in the closing minutes of the game. But with 2 minutes 45 seconds left, a pinpoint 56-yard pass from Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith set up Jaden Fielding's 33-yard field goal to clinch it.
Here they come. Heavy pressure, Howard delivers downfield, and Smith, he's got it! Jeremiah Smith!
Ohio State won the game, 34-23. It capped an incredible postseason for the Buckeyes. They stormed through the inaugural 12-team playoff, winning 4 games, and they secured their first national championship since the 2014 season. All right, you're all caught up. And remember, the 7 podcast is not the only stopping ground for news at the Post. Make sure you listen to our afternoon news podcast, Post Reports. Yesterday's episode is about Trump's unusual inauguration and the plans for his presidency. Just search for Post Reports wherever you listen to podcasts. And support the show by following on Spotify or leaving a comment and review on Apple. I'm Christina Quinn. We'll meet you back here tomorrow.